First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rokah, Kodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to you, Akim and you, Akwat, that believe in all sincerity. I believe I will title this, Though I Be Nothing, okay? And that's a line that I got from 2 Corinthians 12 and 11. As you see here on your screen, okay, at the end of the verse, though I be nothing. All right, and like the Apostle Paul, always stated in the scriptures, humbly that he was as nothing. And I remember the elder Apostle Tahar would always say that, that Paul was always checking himself. As a matter of fact, the scriptures speak about the Most High, Yahweh Bashim El Shai, giving him a thorn in the flesh, okay, because the manifold revelations, okay, so that he wouldn't get proud, all right? And sometimes we have flaws in the flesh, all right, or infirmities, or, just different circumstances that keep us from being proud. And something that we had brought out at camp, and I thought that it was very interesting, something worth running back, because you got individuals, they come into the truth, and they turn the truth into the grace of the Lord into lasciviousness, which is unbridled lust, meaning they just, whatever their flesh desires, they do, and they think that they have liberty to do such, and that's not true. And one of the things individuals do is just learn the knowledge, get proud, and end up going and doing their own thing, and falling out, and basically changing the doctrine to whatever suits them, okay? And it must not be so, okay, with us, and no matter what been revealed to us, whether we've been given gifts to be good orators, or to know history, or to be healers, or to go into prophecy, whatever the case may be, we have to always check ourselves, always stay humble. Because we don't want to be those individuals that come into this truth, and it gets to their head, and think that they can just be the know-it-alls, and they don't ever have to be checked. That's something that you're seeing in the world today. Individuals that just can't be told anything, people that don't take accountability, and that's very that's a sorry attitude. It's a sorry mentality for people to think that their shit don't stink, but what did this guy from Outkast say? Andre 3000, that even roses smell like poo poo, and it's true. It's very true. None of us should ever think more than what of themselves than what they ought to. Okay. Matter of fact, let's get that. So this could be an admonishment. All right. This is Romans 12:3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, right? Think soberly, all right? When you think about yourself, look at yourself. Look at what level you're at. Look at, what position, okay? And where you at morally, in the spirit. And gauge yourself and guide yourself to be better, not more than what you really are. It says, according as the Most High has dealt to every man the measure of faith, right? And according to the measure, your portion of faith, and in this truth, you guide yourself by that. Too many individuals try to make a name out of themselves, trying to be, no cowards. You got dudes, saying such things, real nigga university, and so on and so forth. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to be spiritual, and we're here to serve out a sentence, if you will, We're here to learn our lessons, okay? Master our lessons and move forward, move from glory to glory. But that's too much for Jake, man. And then you see how they end up, totally bugged out. And that's something that we don't want to be. All right. Let's get this. This is 1 Corinthians 15 and 10. This is the Apostle Paul. Okay, speaking. We'll start here at 8. It says, "And last of all, he was seen of me also as of one born out of due time." Okay, meaning the Apostle Paul was basically, one of the last core apostles to basically be woken up to this truth. All right. "For I am the least of the apostles, then am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of the Most High." Okay, and we all know the story that the Apostle Paul, before he came into the ministry, he actually persecuted the saints. So that's why he was saying that he was the least of the apostles, and that he felt like he wasn't worthy enough to be called an apostle because he had persecuted the church. Okay, so let's continue. It says, "But by the grace of the Most High, I am what I am, and his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain. But I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of the Most High was with me." So, the grace of the Most High, okay, is evident in the Apostle Paul, because he came into the truth, okay, and it wasn't in vain, because we know when the scriptures say that he rightly, went to go teach Yahushua. He labored more abundantly. It's almost as if he had like a point to make, okay? Because he did persecute the church. We just read that. It says, "And he labored more abundantly. But the grace of the Most High was with me." So it was the Lord. Okay. So, you see here in the 9th verse, it says that am not meet to be called an apostle because he persecuted the church. So, Paul knew his stance. He knew how he came into the truth, and that's why he labored in abundantly, more than the other apostles, and that's why he wrote more of the New Testament than the other ones, you see. But as we see, okay, he checked himself, all right? This is Philippians, wait. We'll get this. It says, 2 Corinthians 12 and 11, "I am become a fool in glorying. Ye have compelled me, for I have been commended of you. For nothing am I behind the very chiefest apostles, though I be nothing." You see? So, again, he says, "I become a fool in glorying. Ye have compelled me, for I have been commended of you." Because, Apostle Paul, he labored, abundantly. So he's saying that, that he basically looked like a fool in glorying. He went all out. He had like a lot to prove, because he was one of the last to really be woken up and be the core apostles, and that he should have been commended of others because he was not behind the very chiefest of apostles. He was right there with them. Okay, he was right there with Peter, James, and John, which were the three core apostles. Okay, it's as though I be nothing. So there you go. Okay, though I be nothing. So yeah, it's, when we come into this truth, and you have a special gift, and you come into a position, or you come to be known of elders, or your videos are watched and shared, whatever the case may be, and you might feel like you have somewhat to be commended of, or because you've labored and you've went through this and your hell was this. It doesn't matter, man. You're still quote unquote, nothing, so to speak, because this truth is really about being humble. Okay, having humility. We have a lot to pay for. you know we are not perfect. We are, still in this flesh. We're men. All right. This is 1 Corinthians 8. Now, as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. You see, because you can get puffed up. You learning and you going into things, you expounding, you looking up words, you edifying bros. You can get puffed up, right? But the true spirit of charity, okay, is supposed to edify. You're laboring, okay, for others, so others can learn. You're trying to edify. You're trying to build up others in the faith. That's truly what we're here for. We're not here, to make merchandise of people. We're not here, to sell the truth and to get rich and to get famous and to be on podcasts and to, to chase a bag. That's not what we're here for. We're to sincerely teach the truth so that others may learn and that we can receive a reward. That's truly what we're here for. Like, if you're in the right mind, you want to teach people the truth. You want to tell so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans that they're the true Hebrew Israelites and that we have laws, statutes, and commandments to observe, okay, to keep, that we may avoid punishment. That's truly what, spirit you're supposed to be in. Spreading the knowledge, okay? If any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing as he ought to know, right? So, I was looking this up earlier. Yeah, you can't be a know-it-all, man. No one likes a know-it-all, truth be told. NLT, anyone who claims to know all the answers doesn't really know very much, because you as a human know that you don't even retain everything. You got to go back constantly going back to studying, man. Okay, Philippians 2:3. Let nothing. Let me go up. Fulfill ye my joy that ye be like-minded. Right, be like-minded. Dudes want to separate themselves from the truth, not being sensual, not having the spirit. That's not what we're supposed to be doing, man. We're supposed to be with the brothers, having the spirit, being of the same mind. That's how you know, when dudes ain't right, when they want to go off and do their own thing and remix the doctrine. Having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Right. And these dudes, at the end of the day, they become Reservoir Dogs. Haven't seen that movie? These dudes do a heist, and basically they turn on each other. That's not the spirit to be in. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Yeah, nothing's done through strife. You're not going back and forth. You're not doing it to be, glorious in the eyes of others, putting on a show, being an actor. Yeah, that's a hypocrite. We don't want to be that. But in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Yeah, that's another thing. I was thinking about that today. You see that on social media. Everybody's just selling themselves, showing how good they are, how better they are than others. You're supposed to esteem others better than yourself. The scriptures say, let another man's lips praise you and not your own. Okay? You let someone else speak good of you. You're always speaking good of yourself. How about speaking good about others? Try that on for size, man. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Yeah, look at other situations. Don't just look at yours. What do others need? They need you to feed them with the knowledge, with the wisdom, the understanding. Let me get one more. First Peter 3:15. But sanctify the Lord power in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Right. Be ready always to give an answer to everyone that asketh you of the reason that you have the hope. What's the reason that you hope so much in this truth? What's the reason why you have so much conviction? You have so much zeal? Okay, you know that the Most High is a so-called Negro and the tribes are blacks, Latinos, Native Americans. You're supposed to always be ready, okay, to give an answer, okay? And the scriptures say, with salt. You got to do it with flavor. Got to know how to answer every man. Be all things to all men. Okay, there's an elegance, there's a class that it comes to this truth. I'm starting to see, and as you get older, there's a certain type of class that you have, that you gain. You learn to be classy, you learn to be elegant in this thing. You don't just stay mediocre, lower level. You grow in the knowledge, and you become more godly, more kingly. We're princes of the power. Okay. Having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in the Mashiach, right? And yeah, having a good conscience, knowing that you're doing others right and you're doing right by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. People can speak evil of you all they want, but ultimately they're going to be ashamed of your good behavior in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right? So it's a little something that I was pondering on. Though I be nothing, right? No matter if you been a spectacle or you taught others, you brought others in, or you mighty works have been wrought. Hey man, it's like it's though we were nothing, but in another place it says that our works are glorious in the eyes of the Lord, and that's what's important. All right, but for us to extol ourselves, and that's not the spirit. Humility, always hoping. The scriptures say that ye might receive the promise. You see, prisoners of hope. All right. So just wanted to put this out there, Lord willing. This was admonishing, exhorting. Okay. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And a sincere salutation to you, Akim and you, Akweth, to believe in all sincerity. Shalom.